Hey, good Wednesday morning, everybody. Welcome back. Hopefully, we're having a wonderful middle of the week here, and it's kind of chilly out there for a lot of folks. I'm sure you can feel it. I'm wearing a long sleeve kind of sweater thing here for the first time so far this year. Well, outside of obviously earlier in the year, but so far, towards this second half of the year, definitely. And we had some low temperatures that were really low out there. I know some folks up into West Virginia got down to freezing. We had some frost in places. Definitely don't want to say unheard of, but definitely uncommon for this time of year to see low temperatures like we saw this morning. And we're going to do it all again today. Chilly afternoon for obviously August standards. That being said, we'll still get up into the 70s and 80s for a lot of folks, but some of us, it's going to be quite a cold afternoon up into the Northeast with some rain as well. Really going to feel like fall. Now we just need to get those leaves to change. But that's not the only thing I'm tracking right now. There is the potential for a big storm kind of brewing, I think, in the 7 to 10 day range. And that could come from a couple different places. We could have a pretty big mid-latitude cyclone that crosses the country. We could even have something in the tropics. And I'm going to talk about both in today's video. We'll start with the tropics, then we'll transition to kind of what's happening now, and then end out the video with that chance of, again, potentially a pretty big time storm here as we transition from August to September through portions of the lower 48. Now, if you're new here, welcome. My name is Gerald. I'm a meteorology major at the University of North Carolina, Charlotte, in my junior year now. So kind of crossed the halfway point and excited to kind of end this thing on a high note over the next 2 years. Also, if you haven't already subscribed, definitely do so. Hit the bell for the latest notifications, like the video, and comment. Let me know where you're watching from on this Wednesday. I think with all that said, we can go ahead and jump on into that forecast because, again, there is a lot we're going to talk about today. So let's go ahead and get right to it. Now, we're going to start with the tropics as we normally do this time of year, even though I know it's a little chilly outside and some of us may have even forgotten that we're in hurricane season, but we're not even to the peak of hurricane season. I know this cold air and kind of the lack of anything on the map right now is probably going to throw people off a little, but the peak of hurricane season still isn't for really another 2 to 3 weeks. So we've got a good way to go, and in fact, you'll even see that on satellite here. A pretty big time wave coming off of southern or the southwestern half of Africa here, these kind of waves are what we need to watch for now. All things considered, though, right now, this is definitely a pretty impressive lull in activity for this time of year. You would expect a lot more here in the main development region, but really we just have, a couple showers and storms here in the middle of the central Atlantic, and then obviously this bigger monsoonal trough here that is exiting the coast of Africa currently. But other than that, we do have a bit of a front that is draping down off the eastern seaboard. That is leading to some pretty impressive shower activity off the southeast coastline, also some shower activity in the Gulf. And we'll need to watch that for maybe some homegrown development, but right now the models aren't very excited about it, although sometimes these kind of setups can sneak up on us. So we'll watch it, but right now nothing too concerning there, just kind of something that we're going to pay attention to. But you're probably wondering, well, why is it so not busy right now? Well, what's the catch here? Well, the big thing right now is dry air. All of this kind of red and orange you see on the map, that is unfavorable conditions for tropical development here. And I know this map might be a little hard to see, but this little kind of blue line that is outlined here, that is the coast of Africa, and then this is the United States and Canada here, and then down into Central America. And you'll notice, again, just a lot of orange and red on the map. That's making it difficult for thunderstorm activity to maintain itself and really get going at all. But you will notice a pretty, higher moisture content here off of or here over the west coast of Africa, and that is slowly moving into the main development region. And I think that's going to kind of pave the way for what's behind it and kind of moisten things up a little bit more here as we go towards the last week of August and that first week of September. And that is when we are expecting development chances to once again increase. And I promise you, I'm not the only one saying that. I'll even show you some stuff from the professionals, if you will, here in just a moment. But just to show you this latest from the National Hurricane Center, no tropical cyclone activity is expected over the next 7 days, nor do we have any named storms right now. Ernesto is gone, so no longer need to worry about that storm system. And all things considered, just, in kind of a weird lull. It's just kind of a weird weather pattern in general. Again, it feels like fall out there. There's nothing happening in the tropics. You'd be, maybe more likely to believe it's October than still kind of the middle to second half of August. So definitely just kind of a weird time out there. But we do not expect this lull to last forever. Again, this is the latest from the Climate Prediction Center. This just dropped yesterday. This is the first time I'm showing it to you on video. They still expect high probability of tropical development over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And again, this is the time frame I've been watching. August 28th to September 3rd. I really like that time frame for our next named storm. And we could get something before then, maybe that kind of pops up last second. But I think the next kind of highest probability of storm development, again, will be next week. So a week from now, going into kind of next Wednesday through next week, and then into the first couple of days of September thereafter, they're giving it a greater than a 60% chance of some sort of development, whether that's tropical depression, tropical storm, or hurricane. It could be any of the above. But they feel very confident that's going to happen here in the next 2 weeks. And in the next 3 weeks, they even continue to kind of drop the hammer here and say, yeah, we're still expecting development here in the main development region of the Atlantic Ocean as we get towards peak hurricane season. So definitely in a lull right now. Enjoy that lull while it lasts, because it will not last forever. And unfortunately, we're very likely to see more stormy activity out in the Atlantic pick back up, but we will enjoy this nicer break. Again, just maybe go watch a scary movie or something, pretend it's October, because unfortunately it's going to get hot again and the tropics are going to pick up again, and we are going to very much be reminded that summer is not quite done yet. Now, we do have some models I can show you here for tropical development. This is actually brand new, and I was waiting for it to finish loading while I was setting everything up, and sure enough, perfectly, it is ready to go. So this is the latest GFS and its ensembles, and when I say the latest, I mean like this literally is right now. This just dropped. So you'll notice there are some things we need to watch, and in fact, something new on the map that I'm going to point out that, again, I'm looking at this for the first time with you. So obviously, this is within the next 10 days. The GFS is picking up on potential development in the main development region. So we talked about that with the last map. The GFS is backing that up. Also, take a look at this. We got a couple of these members down here in the Gulf of Mexico. This is what I mentioned earlier in the video. We could see some tropical development there should that front kind of allow it. And a couple members here in the GFS definitely pointing that out. So this is definitely an uptick from, oops, sorry, I just kicked the desk. This is definitely an uptick from the overnight cycle. So this morning cycle definitely looks a little bit more impressive here for tropical development. And again, it just shows a sign that we are not done yet, and we could be tracking a storm out here again before you know it. So definitely keep an eye to the tropics. And the GFS is not the only model that shows this. This is the European model. This is from, let me see, this is overnight. No, this is from this morning. So you'll notice even the European model from this morning definitely has a couple of, well, actually, let me double check. This is from this morning. 0Z, 12Z. Okay, my bad. No, yeah, this is from overnight. So still the latest that we have. But nonetheless, so it is showing a couple members here that are trying to get something going here and getting it into the Caribbean by the time we get towards that 7 to 10 day range. Also, not a lot, but a couple members showing something in the Gulf as well. We'll watch it. But just to show you, again, this was overnight model for the European and its ensembles. If I show you yesterday afternoon's run, you'll notice that it's even more impressive. In fact, we had a good couple of members yesterday trying to get something going here in the Caribbean, and even almost try to bring it up towards the Gulf of Mexico or the southeast coastline of the United States, which is not something that we want. Let me tell you, we definitely do not want anything in the Gulf of Mexico, and here is why. The kind of sea surface or ocean temperatures here are kind of off the charts. In fact, a new study, or not a study, this is just scientific data, so not even a study, but the Gulf of Mexico currently, its average temperature is at the highest it's ever been in recorded history. I saw yesterday a chart on that. So, the Gulf has been relatively untouched. Yes, we had Debbie and we had, Beryl. That was the other storm that we had in the Gulf this year. So, we've seen a couple storms, but we've yet to see a big one. And the Gulf has had all this time to just kind of continue to warm up. It's gotten hotter and hotter. Some of these temperatures are up past 90 degrees Fahrenheit. These kind of pink colors that you see, it's very warm there. So if we do get a storm to try to develop there, and we have a lack of wind shear and we have moist enough air, there could really be some explosive development out here that we're going to want to watch for. And that's something I'm very concerned about as we go later into the year. And in fact, climatologically speaking, even October, excuse me, is a pretty big year for development in the Gulf. You think a couple years ago when we had all those storms in October, the Gulf was very active. Not to compare this to 2004, but storms like Wilma, even late in the season, that got into the Gulf, had plenty of energy to work with. So just something we're going to want to watch. We'll pay attention to for sure. But just do not let your guard down, because I know right now we're in a little bit of a lull. Things feel nice. And obviously get out there and enjoy that nice weather while we have it. But that doesn't mean that we can just kind of forget everything else in the future here. All right, so let's take a look at some satellite imagery, and I'm going to take a sip of coffee because, again, it's the morning and I'm tired. So, all right, so satellite imagery. So we're going to kind of zoom things out just a little bit here and take a look at much of North America, so my viewers in Canada can see everything, and obviously everyone watching in the United States can see here as well. Excuse me, got something in my throat here. But so, we'll take a look at the current map here. A couple features to note. We do have an upper level low, or kind of a mid-level low even, here over portions of the Northeast. That has brought some shower activity. We also have a pretty big time trough here over the Pacific Northwest. That is going to eventually move inland as a storm system itself. And then we have kind of this bigger ridge that is over the south central part of the country. So if we kind of draw all the dots here and kind of look at the flow that we're seeing, you'll get well, if I could draw any better than that, that would be helpful probably. You'll get the general idea of what we're seeing here. So obviously in the East Coast, we're seeing much nicer, drier air because we're getting this air funneled down out of Canada, and that is helping to make it feel nice. High pressure is over. That sinking air is making things feel beautiful. But over the Rockies, it's a little bit of a different story. You'll notice we have flow out of the Pacific. So this has really helped with that monsoonal flow that we've seen over the past couple of days, and that will continue. In fact, you'll notice most of our shower and storm activity is in the Rocky Mountains and even getting into the northern Great Plains due to that Pacific flow. And that'll be a big theme over the next couple of days, I think, before eventually this low pressure system moves in and helps to kind of bring flow a little bit, or change up the flow a little bit, I should say, and make things a little less one directional here, if you will. All right, so radar, again, relatively quiet. We've got a couple pockets of storms, again, kind of riding along this ridge through portions of Iowa and Missouri. Again, these storms coming up through the Dakotas and into Montana as well, kind of just riding that ridge, getting some of that boost from the Pacific Ocean. Also some shower activity down through Florida and coastal South Carolina. In fact, Myrtle Beach and Charleston yesterday had some pretty good storms, and I talked about that in the video. If anyone was going to get robbed of kind of this nicer air, it was going to be these coastal sections of South Carolina down into South Georgia and Florida. And I say robbed, it's still better than it was a week ago. You're just not quite getting in on the super nice temperatures and dew points that we're seeing up into the Ohio River Valley. So again, the same story today, though. We could see more of that. Also, look at these showers up through portions of Ontario, Quebec, getting down into New York State. It's going to be a bit of a showery day up there, and it's going to be a pretty chilling one, too. We'll take a look at those temperatures in a moment, and just note that definitely well below average temperatures there. All right, current watches, warnings, advisories out there, relatively quiet. Again, I've said it the past week, it's going to be hot in Texas. In fact, it's going to be hot really in much of the Great Plains and into the desert Southwest this afternoon, at least those of you that aren't seeing rain. So definitely watching for that. But in the east, all things considered, pretty quiet. We are still seeing some flooding, funnily enough, or not funny, it's not funny for anybody that's seeing it, but ironically enough, still seeing some flooding from Debbie, which again moved through weeks ago now. Feels like months ago, honestly. That's still leading to some river flooding here into Horry County, where I know the Socastee area has seen some pretty bad flooding from one of those rivers. I've seen plenty of pictures of that through social media, and then just these other rivers in and around the area still seeing some, but not quite as bad as it was a couple weeks ago. Obviously, those rivers are starting to come back down to their original levels. Even same story down into Florida, I'll mention too. You're not left out. In fact, we had some pretty big flooding down into the Sarasota area of Florida there when Debbie moved through. So again, relatively quiet, but a couple things worth noting. All right, let's talk about what's happening right now. Let's go over the next 48 hours here, and then we'll zoom things out, take a look at the long run. And again, I think we could see some pretty impressive storm development, or I don't know what I'm talking about, or more cyclonic development, I should say, rather, going in the medium to long run. So we'll take a look at that. But currently, again, the main players on the field, I already kind of talked about this. One mid-level low in the Northeast, another big-time bowling ball low off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, high pressure or ridge in between. So, basically what I've talked about, I already explained this map, but I'll show it to you again with the actual colors on it and not just satellite imagery. So one thing we will want to watch for over the next couple of days is the shot for some severe weather. And really the main people that are going to see it are going to be up into portions of the Rockies and the northern Great Plains are going to have the highest chance of seeing that severe weather potential. Again, we're just getting kind of a boost from being around that ridge and with some of that Pacific moisture. That's going to help things out as well. Tornado threat, pretty low today, mainly going to be a wind threat and a hail threat for this afternoon. And we get this into tomorrow. We're going to do it all again, a marginal risk tomorrow. Again, mainly going to be a wind and a hail threat, although an isolated tornado can never be completely ruled out with any of these setups. And then we'll do it all again come, let's see, what's the third day of the week here? Today's Wednesday, Thursday, so this would be Friday, another marginal risk up for portions of the Rockies and the Great Plains. So you get the idea here. Nothing, out of this world. It's not a severe weather outbreak by any means, but definitely important enough that it's worth mentioning. In fact, we're going to start out west here with the latest forecast models. And then we'll work our way east. So this afternoon, again, definitely some pretty good monsoonal flow that's kind of, again, working its way up through the Four Corners region, through Wyoming, through even portions of the Dakotas and Montana. And again, any of that could create strong to severe storms that we'll watch for. Also, notice this rain just off the coast of the Pacific Northwest, going to try to bring some rain through portions of Washington State, Oregon, and surrounding areas. We'll definitely want to watch for that. Just kind of same old this afternoon. We get into overnight tonight, into tomorrow morning. Things calm down a little bit during the overnight hours. Excuse me. And then we get into our Thursday afternoon, and we'll do it all again. Again, shower activity increasing also in the Pacific Northwest as that storm system finally begins to work on through for you folks through Washington, Oregon. Again, pretty widespread rainfall through the Four Corners. Could see a couple strong to severe storms as well out of that for our Thursday afternoon. And then this gets into overnight Thursday, and then this model doesn't quite go out to Friday, but Friday, general idea, we'll do it all again, and we'll want to watch those marginal risks up for severe weather that we talked about. Now let's take a look at the east today for potential rainfall and storminess. Again, this is getting into this afternoon and evening, and you'll notice the main areas that are seeing any sort of rain are the northeast, where again that upper level low is bringing some very cool showery activity. Also down into the Florida Peninsula, some more stormy activity. Could see a couple storms try to get severe, but definitely heavy rain, frequent lightning will be a concern down there as that front is still draped across the state here. The same front that has already cleared through much of the country. So that's the main theme today, but everyone else in between those areas, it's going to feel nice, it's going to feel beautiful, it's going to feel about as close to fall as you can get for August standards. Overnight tonight, we will have to watch again a couple of these storms that try to escape the Rockies and get out into the Great Plains. Could see some showers and storms out of those, again, including the small threat for some severe weather in those areas that the Storm Prediction Center has outlined. And then we get into Thursday afternoon, and I think this isn't being talked about a lot, but it's going to be really stormy over Florida. Again, this front is just parked over the state. We're going to see plenty of rain tomorrow. In fact, I wouldn't rule out a little bit of a flash flooding threat as we get some of these storms kind of trained over the same areas. Especially they're kind of along the I-4 corridor. So if you're, in Orlando or, any place like that, going to see some rainy conditions, but really anyone in the peninsula has a good chance for some rainfall Thursday afternoon here. Still showery up through Quebec, Ontario, and the interior Northeast down through New England. Going to see some pretty good rainfall as well here for our Thursday afternoon. And, it's just going to be kind of the theme for the next couple of days, but everyone else in between, it's going to be pretty nice. Now let's take a look at those dew point temperatures. Again, another word for dew point, if you just want to get rid of the science, the muggy meter. How muggy is it outside? This is going into this afternoon and evening. And anything that you see that is in kind of orange or yellow, that's generally speaking, less muggy air. It feels a little bit nicer. The orange and yellow, my bad, is more muggy air. Sorry, I was thinking of something else there. Definitely that's going to kind of put a dent in maybe some of those nicer feeling the nicer feeling air, I guess. Sorry, I'm kind of derailing a little bit here. But the other temperatures or the other colors on your map here, the blues and the greens, those are nicer feeling dew points or less muggy air. Now, this model is pretty notorious for underdoing it a little bit, so I would add about 5, or so degrees to the dew point on all of these temperatures. But you get the idea. This afternoon, it's going to feel great for a lot of us, especially the Ohio River Valley, the Great Lakes region up into the Northeast. A couple pesky spots to watch, again, coastal South Carolina, southern Georgia, and down into Florida, where that front is kind of hanging on and bringing a little bit of onshore flow, unfortunately. Could definitely keep those dew point values a little bit higher than we would like. Also into the Great Plains, unfortunately, it's just, this isn't your cold front. This isn't the one for you, unfortunately, but everyone in between, specifically places like West Virginia, Ohio, Kentucky, Indiana, and those kind of areas. This is it's going to be a beautiful day here with about as nice of air as you could ask for this Wednesday. We get this into tomorrow morning, waking up. Again, the lower the dew point, the lower your temperature is going to get to. It's going to be more of the same. Just going to have to watch this pesky area down into the southeast that may try to move through and even get into Alabama and portions of Georgia there could make things a little bit more muggy. Florida, unfortunately, it's just going to really be muggy most of the time outside of maybe parts of the panhandle that might get in on some nicer air every now and then. Then we get to Thursday afternoon. And it's another beautiful day out there. With most of us, again, having those really nice dew point values. Now, what about temperatures? Well, this afternoon, again, same story here. I'd add maybe 3 to 5 degrees to much of these. Just generally speaking, the model's probably underdoing it, but a couple places I want to highlight here. Look at the interior Northeast and even into Quebec and Ontario. Some of you folks might not get out of the 40s today in the higher terrains there. That mid-level low really bringing that cool air to the surface with those showers. This is, again, about as close to fall as you can get this time of year. And, borderline winter-like almost. At least that'd be winter in South Carolina where I'm from. More fall-like for you definitely, but it's going to be interesting for sure to see how high or how low specifically those high temperatures get this afternoon. Ohio River Valley, widespread 70s, beautiful air. Same for the Mid-Atlantic. It's going to get warmer down towards Alabama, where we're going to get up into the lower 90s. Sorry, same story for Southern Mississippi, Louisiana, Florida. Carolinas, widespread 70s, I think, for North Carolina, low 80s for much of South Carolina, specifically south of the I-20 corridor. And then it's going to be hot back out in the Central Plains. So Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, unfortunately, still not so nice for you. We get this into tomorrow morning. And potential low temperatures for tonight into tomorrow, widespread 50s, some 60s down into the southeast. In fact, we're going to see 40s again, I think, and probably even 30s in those higher terrains, much like this morning. So just imagine tomorrow morning, much like this morning. So whatever you woke up to, it's going to be more of the same. Alrighty, let's talk about that potential for a bigger storm system later on down the road here, going into the kind of end of August here into the start of September. This is our latest European model. This is, again, kind of what we're seeing now and into tomorrow. We've got that big storm out west I talked about. We've got that upper level low through the northeast, bringing some cooler air and some more showery activity. But watch what happens this week. Now, eventually that storm out west is going to work on through. That could bring some unsettled weather through the Rockies through this weekend. But unfortunately, what's going to happen with it is that's going to kind of push this bigger ridge over the east, and that's going to make things warmer again. It's going to start to get muggy again here for the early part of next week. But notice what's happening up to the north. We've kind of got a bit of a wave train of Rossby waves here, just meaning we've kind of got areas of low pressure that are kind of swinging on through one after another, and that could very much lead to a pretty big time storm here in the long run. So watch what happens with this trough specifically that is kind of back up into Western Canada. This is early next week. Eventually, that dives southward here on the European model and forms a big time low pressure system. And very impressive troughing by next Friday. So this is 7 to 10 days from now, but it's something we want to watch because a lot of the models have been hinting at it. The ensembles have been kind of on board as well. And should we get something like this, it could bring a pretty impressive storm system. So this weekend, again, could see some storm activity through the country as that first kind of wave works through, especially into the Rockies and the northern Great Plains. But after that, going into next week, we need to watch for what happens. Here's that next storm system that could potentially form about 7 to 10 days from now. Could bring some severe weather potential. It could bring some gusty winds, some rainfall, and more importantly, on the backside here, it could bring once again another big shot of cool, dry air. In fact, if we take a look at that dew point map for next week, again, this weekend is still relatively nice. Started next week, those dew points build back in for just about everyone east of the Rockies. But here comes that storm system, tries to crash those dew points back down once again. And granted, this is 10 days from now, so take it with a grain of salt. But we could see, another big-time cold front for sure by the time we get towards the start of September. Fingers crossed, obviously. I'm a big fan of the fall weather. I'm sure most of you are as well. So if we can continue to get these shots of cold air, that's going to help to make things more fall-like. Also could help to deflect any tropical activity. Not that it would prevent tropical storms from developing, but it could help kind of steer them back out to sea before they're able to get to the United States. So it would kind of be a 1-2 punch that would be helpful for most people here. So we'll see what happens. I'll be keeping an eye on it for you and keeping you updated. But with that said, I appreciate y'all watching. Have a wonderful rest of your Wednesday, and I'll see you all tomorrow.